Hello everyone, welcome to Eye on Africa. Here are the headlines for Wednesday, May the 5th. Kidnappers released 29 students who were being held captive in northwestern Nigeria for several weeks. We'll get the latest from Lagos in just a moment. South Africa's ruling ANC party suspends its Secretary General after he was charged with embezzling funds while heading the country's Free State province. And a French journalist who disappeared in northern Mali last month appears in a video saying that he is being held by Al-Qaeda's North Africa branch. Well, we begin with this great news from Nigeria. Kidnappers have released 29 students who had been abducted from their college by gunmen 2 months ago. 10 of the 39 students initially kidnapped were found by security forces in the weeks following the attack, but the whereabouts of the remaining 29 had been uncertain. France 24's Sam Olukoya joins us now from Lagos. Sam, what more do we know?
Well, what we had this afternoon is that the remaining 27 students have been released. We have confirmation from the parents, from the police, and from the Kaduna State government. That's as far as we know. We are not sure yet if the students have reunited with their families, and the circumstance under which these students were released remains unclear. It wasn't a case of, we are not sure it was a case of the students being rescued. It's as if they were released. And I think the case of these students cannot be isolated from the case of some other students from another university in Kaduna State who were abducted on April 20. There are 22 students, and 5 of these students have so far been executed. And what we heard days back is that the remaining students will be executed. I think this might have prompted some degree of negotiation between possibly the families or possibly the government to negotiate the release of these particular students. So I think the government and perhaps the families of these students might have been prompted to act so that these students are not released. But as far as it goes, this case of kidnapping has not ended. If we still have about 20 students from a university in the same state who are still being held by kidnappers, and these kidnappers set a deadline of Tuesday that they will start, they will continue the execution of these students. So it's a very sad situation where you have 5 students so far executed, and then you still have about 20 students from another university still being held by those who abducted them.
Sam Olukoya reporting to us from Lagos. Sam, thank you very much. South Africa's governing ANC party has suspended its Secretary General Ace Magashule. The 61-year-old was given a month-long ultimatum to step down back in March after he was charged with embezzling funds while he was the premier of the Free State province. Our correspondent Sam Bradpiece has more from Cape Town.
He's currently out on bail. He was arrested towards the end of last year on charges of corruption, money laundering and fraud. Now, most of these charges date back to his time as the provincial governor of the Free State, that's a province in South Africa, as you mentioned, where he awarded close to $16 million in contracts to various private firms to clear asbestos from low-cost housing in the province. This was a big problem. Now, it emerged later, or it's alleged, that there were kickbacks when it came to the handing out of these contracts. And we know for a fact that lots of the asbestos removal never actually happened. Residents in the Free State still feel the health repercussions of this today, many of them suffering with health problems.
As you've mentioned, the ANC is the ruling party in South Africa. How significant is this for the party and for the country?
Well, this is a pretty big deal. Ace Makashule is arguably one of the most powerful politicians in South Africa. As Secretary General of the ruling ANC party, he wielded significant power. And what you need to remember about the ANC, now they've been in power since 1994, since the end of white minority rule in South Africa. What you must remember about the ANC today is that it's divided really into two factions. Broadly speaking, there's the pro-Ramaphosa faction, Cyril Ramaphosa being the current president of South Africa, versus the pro-Zuma faction, Jacob Zuma, the ex-president of South Africa, who's also facing allegations of corruption kind of as we speak, really. Now, Ace Makashule, he was a staunch ally of Jacob Zuma. And so his temporary suspension from the ANC really provides a chance for the current president, Cyril Ramaphosa, to consolidate his power, to consolidate his influence over the party.
A French journalist who disappeared last month in the northern Malian city of Gao appeared today in a video appealing to the authorities to help free him. In the 21-second clip, Olivier Dubois says he is being held by Islamist militants. The foreign ministry here in Paris today confirmed his disappearance, but stopped short of describing this as a kidnapping. France 24's Claire Rush tells us what we know so far.
Olivier Dubois worked for several French news outlets, including Libération and Le Point Afrique. In a 21-second video posted to social media on Wednesday, he said he was kidnapped on April 8th in the northern Malian city of Gao by jihadist group JNIM. Full name, Jamaat Nusrat al-Islam wal Muslimin. The group is linked to al-Qaeda. It is not responsible for publishing the video, in which Dubois calls on his loved ones and authorities to help free him. The French Foreign Ministry told AFP that it's in contact with Dubois' family. For now, terrorism experts say it remains unclear whether he was lured to Gao under false pretenses.
Someone portrayed to him or told him that he will be able to conduct an interview with the local jihadi commander from the region of Telatai. And this is why he went to Gao. So up to this point, we don't know if he was dragged there by a jihadi group or by local kidnappers or criminals who sold him later to a jihadi group.
JNIM was formed in 2017 when four major jihadi factions unified under the banner of al-Qaeda. Since then, it has grown increasingly entrenched in the region. Mali and the Sahel more broadly have been struggling to contain a deadly Islamist insurgency, largely driven by groups affiliated with al-Qaeda and the Islamic State group. Thousands have been killed and hundreds of thousands have fled their homes, while foreigners have become targets for kidnappings. Dubois is the latest French national to be taken hostage by jihadist militants in Mali since aid worker Sophie Petronin was freed last October. She had been abducted near Gao in 2016.
The head of Ethiopia's Tigray region has resigned. That is according to a statement made by his deputy to the Reuters news agency. Mulu Nega was appointed head of the administration in November during the military offensive which was launched against separatist troops in the region. Both Mulu and the Prime Minister's office were approached for comments, but neither have responded so far. Mourners gathered outside a Johannesburg morgue on Wednesday to accompany the body of the late Zulu regent queen ahead of her funeral. 65-year-old Shiyiwe Mantfombi Dlamini Zulu died on April 30th, just weeks after she was named the interim successor to her late husband. The title of Zulu King and Zulu Regent Queen do not hold any executive power, but the ruler does have moral influence over more than 11 million Zulus and controls millions of hectares of land through a trust. Finally, if you're a fan of MMA or mixed martial arts, then you certainly know this year's heavyweight champion. Francis Ngannou from Cameroon has just returned to his hometown of Batié to a hero's welcome. He now says he wants to open sports centers all over the country.
When Francis Ngannou returned to his hometown of Batié in western Cameroon, most residents were out in the streets to greet him. He became the MMA or mixed martial arts heavyweight world champion this year.
Je ne suis pas une légende. Je suis juste un enfant du village qui a cru et qui aujourd'hui rentre chez lui. Et le sentiment de chez toi, il n'y a rien qui explique ça. L'émotion.
MMA is a full-contact combat sport based on striking, grappling and ground fighting. For For the last 2 years in Batia, children have been learning martial arts in a sports centre funded by Ngannou.
J'étais tellement fier quand on m'a dit Francis a ouvert un centre dans notre quartier. J'étais tellement fier. Et quand je suis arrivé, je voulais tellement m'entraîner.
Ngannou, who's 34, says he wants to help Cameroon's development.
Le projet il est immense, c'est de couvrir le territoire national avec des salles, des opportunités aux jeunes de pouvoir s'entraîner, non seulement sportivement, mais c'est aussi en quelque sorte une forme de développement personnel qui permettra aux enfants de croire en leurs rêves, de croire en eux-mêmes.
It has been a long road for Ngannou. In 2013, he arrived illegally in France and was homeless for some time. Before that, in Cameroon, he had worked in this quarry, where his former colleagues remember him well.
Il n'a pas changé, toujours relax avec nous. Travailleur, il faut préciser. Bon travailleur. Oui. Beaucoup d'engagement surtout.
Ngannou now lives in Las Vegas and he's friends with Mike Tyson. But he wanted to show Batia's residents that he would never forget them.
A truly remarkable journey. That does it for Eye on Africa. Thank you for watching. The news continues on France 24 in just a moment.